All right. So this should be fun because this is actually what you guys are going to teach if you were in a class. We didn't do copies for everybody because we're just walking you through it. If we were going to make you teach it, everybody would have had the copy and you would have had to have homework before you got here. We tried to spare y'all on a Saturday morning of having to do homework and all that stuff. Yeah, but you'll be able to download. You're going to get literally everything that you need to teach dfree, all 12 presentations, the entire leader's guide, which includes, in addition to the script for each presentation, there's information before it that tells you what to prepare for. There's information after it to tell you what to do later. The leader's guide is very thorough. You'll get all the decks and everything that you need to go through dfree. And it all, right now, is branded in this red and black to match the book. We're actually going to be re-releasing the dfree book this summer. So the materials will change probably around July, August timeframe. But the information is the same. So don't worry about that, and we'll keep you guys updated as we go through the material. So we'll treat this as if we're in an actual dfree class. I won't make you guys read out loud or anything, but I just want to show you kind of how it's organized now that we've talked through it. So you'll start here. And then what we do is we start out with the learning objectives for the entire program. We haven't prayed yet. We're going to get to it. But you take everyone through the actual objectives of dfree. The purpose of it is to guide you on your personal journey to financial freedom. Again, I stress the personal part because you're meeting people where they are. So whatever financial issues they come in with, they need to be tailoring their experience to that particular need. So if there's something specific that they're working on, just keep that in the back of their minds. You may want to, in the first session, go around the room, have people introduce themselves. You will get to a point where you actually write down the goals and everything like that. But just ask people what their expectations are of the class. So what do you hope to get out of dfree, so that you can kind of align that. And then you know as an instructor kind of what you're dealing with. And then you'll take them through what economic empowerment is all about. You give them that definition. You'll give them a little bit of background on dfree. There's an agenda at the beginning of each presentation that kind of takes you through where you are in the process. So it helps to level set as people are going through kind of where you are in those 4 different levels. So we're in level 1, getting started. You always want to tell people about $1 Billion Challenge so that they can go in and update their goals even before they get to class. They should have hopefully started a $1 Billion Challenge account. It's part of the pre-work, which again, you'll also see in your script. We tell you what you should recommend for people to do before they come to class. All right. So here's the pre-work. See, when I tell you it's scripted, like there is nothing that you won't forget in this. So there's a pre-work slide that tells people what they should have done before they came to class. If they didn't do it, guess what? There'll be a chance to go through it while you're in class. Most of the pre-work is to read the chapter that you're going to be discussing for that day and then go through the workbook exercises so that they just have a frame of reference before they get into the class. So remember we talked about icebreakers and we talked about values, about time and money. The very first icebreaker, we have these large dollar bills. You can get them at Party City or anything, like it's like play money. And so you give that out in your first class. And again, this is in the script. It'll tell you what you need to prepare before you get there. But you give out the play money, and what you do is you ask people to talk about their values. So you say, okay, my name is Tamika, and I value these 3 things. So that's what you're going to write down on the on the back of the dollar bill. So this person values intelligence, creativity, and dependability. So as they go through this, that's kind of their frame of reference. So if this is what you say is important to you, as you think about your financial habits, how do they reflect those values? You say you're dependable, but you pay your bills late. That's not necessarily being dependable. You value intellect, but you don't pay Sally Mae on time. You got your degree, but you're not paying for it. Or, so it just encourages you to reflect back on these 3 values. And it's personal to each person. They don't necessarily have to share what they wrote down, but it's that internal self-check about how you're spending your money and your attitudes and behaviors. So Michelle is handing out an example of the dollars. So if you were in class, we would say, take a few minutes, write down what you value. And it's really helpful because it level sets and it kind of holds people accountable for what they say they value. So you could think about that today as you're going through the dfree process. You'll talk a little bit about our partners. We have a script for that. And now it's time. We're into week 1, level 1. It is happening. You guys are here. It's time. So level 1 is getting started. Again, this is the basics of dfree, so you will go through the learning objectives and the goals, and then we're going to pray. So we've already prayed ourselves into training, but the prayer is there. It is written. It is in your script. And then admit the problem. So the very first part of the deck is if you open up your dfree textbook to chapter 1 and look at, let's see, if you're just looking at, I'm in the introduction, sorry. The subheadings in level 1. So step 1 is admit the problem. And then if you go to page 37. We won't read through it, but you'll see like the cost of a full tank of gas. Like you'll see the subheadings in there. Guess what matches? When you see just discussion points, the cost of a full tank of gas. So it is aligned specifically to the book. So as you go through each section, we encourage you to kind of talk through, or maybe you'll have a volunteer to say, hey, what was this section of the book about? Did anything stand out for you in this text? And there's a few key things. You can figure out what is going to be important to your class. You will never make it through all of this material in a 90-minute session. And that's about the time that we recommend. Anything longer than that, you're going to lose people. Anything shorter, and you really will never make it through. So a 90-minute session is what we normally recommend. When we do it in the evenings, we do 7:15 to 8:45. When we do it during the weekends, we either do like a 10 to 11:30, or on Sundays, we do 11 to 12:30. So just to give you an idea of the time frames that we work with. But again, all of this is keyed directly to the book. So you'll start with the textbook, and then you'll do your video. So it's important to make sure you have internet access in the room that you're using, and speakers, so that people can hear the video. Most of them are about 7 minutes long. So you'll watch the video and discuss it. And again, for people that may not have done the pre-work, once you show the video, they will understand what you talked about. So at no point should anybody really feel lost in the class. So you don't necessarily have to worry about that. It's not a situation where, things happen. We're adults. We may not read. We may not have time to go through the work. But people should still be encouraged to come to class because they know that they're going to get the material through some way or another. Sorry. The videos are about 7 minutes long. Yeah, none of them are longer than 10 minutes. And they're, again, already baked into the presentation, so you don't have to worry about going to find separate links. You click on it from here, and it should be already queued up to go. And then we include statistics in each of the presentations. We advise that you guys try to update them regularly. We're going through a research process now to kind of update all the statistics in the deck. But what we do is we try to make it as real life as possible so that people can see not just the impact on them personally, but what it looks like nationally and even globally in some instances around debt and financial management. So you go through the statistics, and there's some real life activities to kind of bring it back home for people. And then learning elements. So now we've gone through the textbook, we talked about Pastor Sori's story, and now we're into the workbook, and we're talking about our friends who? Claude and Grace, because we don't want to talk about ourselves just yet. So you would either have someone read through, there's a short passage at the beginning of each workbook section. You can have somebody read it out loud or somebody summarize it. And then there's all the different activities that are within that chapter are listed here. Again, you will never get through all of this. Pick what's important to you. So as you go through the workbook, if you say, okay, this activity feels like it might be good for my group, then that's the one you will focus on, one or two things that you will focus on in class. Towards the latter part of the workbook exercises for each chapter is when they really get into their own personal business. The first part of the workbook chapter is Claude and Grace specific. So if you want to stay with Claude and Grace and then ask if anybody had questions about the other homework so that you're not getting into you don't necessarily have to initiate the personal interaction. You can stick with Claude and Grace, and then somebody says, well, when I did my spending plan, I noticed X. Now that opens the door to things being a little bit more personal. So you don't necessarily have to force it as an instructor, but, if they're interested in it, they will talk about it. Any questions as we're going through? But see, it's really easy. It's all laid out here for you. Every deck almost looks exactly the same. So it's up to you to create kind of that personal experience. And then you'll get next steps. So it will tell them what their homework is. Read the next chapter, look at the next video, do the next set of workbook exercises, update your $1 billion challenge, and you tell them when and where the next class is going to be. And then guess what? You pray again, and you go home. And that's it. And then it goes to week 2. So all the presentations are put together. All of them flow the exact same way. It's going to be your prayer, your icebreaker, the textbook, the video, the workbook, the prayer. That's it. So where it's going to get fun is whatever you bring to the class and whatever the class discussion is going to be, so they know what to expect week after week. You guys don't have to do much with these slides at all. You don't have to update the room. You can write that on the chalkboard if you want. It is very scripted. We try to make it as easy as possible so that you can focus on the experience and not necessarily have to focus on creating new material. Do we have any questions online, Sanaya? I know I blew through that really quickly. Oh. Let's see. I think we're youtube.com/mydfree. So you can see, go ahead. If you go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/mydfree, there's tons of testimonials up there for people that have already gone through dfree. That's also where all the All Right TV episodes can be accessed. And it's just helpful to kind of get an idea. Like, we're talking to you about it now, but watching the testimonials, and you can encourage your members to just, if they want to get a preview, to watch some of that, because you really get a chance to see the impact of dfree. Like, we don't over dramatize this. Like, it is stuff that happens on the fly. A lot of them are things that Pastor has taped on his cell phone with people just talking to him about it, and it's really powerful to watch what people have experienced through this.
I'm sorry, just a logistical thing. So when you're going through the scripted presentation, the videos are not embedded, so you have to go to the YouTube channel to bring them up. Okay, I just wanted to make sure of that.
Yeah, we didn't embed them. I can't remember what the reason was, but they're not embedded. Oh, sorry, because that series was done through All Right TV, and so the content lives on their page as opposed to it being something that we can embed.
Right. But what I would say is to be ready as an instructor. What I would do is pull up my PowerPoint and then open another window and pull up the video, hit start, make sure it's all there, ready to go, rewind. And then any video or anything that I'm going to show, then I make sure I have each one lined up. And that way I'm clicking on windows versus hunting and searching and making it awkward for the class.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we try to say if you get to class about 30 minutes prior, like especially if you know your space, 30 minutes is more than enough to get set up, because you're going to have the slides and you're going to have your leader guide already. Everybody comes to class with their books, so you should be good to go in 30 minutes.
And also personalize it for your own style of teaching. For me, I like to have multiple media. So, I might want a flip chart, the overhead, the video, and then that way as people, and always have post-it notes as people are talking, if they have things that you want to put to the side. I mean, make it interactive so that they can feel that we're not just talking at them, the whole time. So just own the material, make it yours, and, just work it based on their styles of learning and interacting to make it engaging. All right. So the other thing is that as you're walking through the information, and thank you, Sanaya, she's getting questions online as well. The question was about pre-work. So when you first set this up, before you even get started, you want to start interacting with people, right? So before you came here, I made sure to send you a note. Sanaya sent you a note. We invite you. We have an orientation. So you want to engage. So a part of the process is you get pre-class work. So before they get here, Tamika mentioned you want them to read Chapter 1 so that they're, understanding what this is all about. You want them to see the first video, which welcomes them to dfree. And so each class, you'll have some pre-class work that they'll need to complete. So you want to get used to, setting up a group list for your class, send out a welcome note, engaging them up front, and then give them the pre-class work. They have a survey they need to fill out from Success Measure so we can get that baseline data. Then they also have a commitment sheet to say, you're going to commit your time to teaching and facilitating this process, but they have to commit their time to going through this process. So we give you a commitment sheet for them to sign as well, just saying they're committed to the process. So for class 1, you send all that out before the class starts. And then after the class, you want to send them a note thanking them for coming to the session, maybe doing a little recap, but then giving them pre-class work for the next class, because you always want that balance of what's going on in the class versus that homework, because in class we work on Claude and Grace. At home you work on you. So the homework is really more important than the classwork sometimes, right? So you want to make sure that they have that connection so they're looking for that next step. And so before each class they get their link, they get their work, and then they come back into the classroom.
Another question?
I just want to add a piece of, automating and making it easy for yourself. I don't know if within your organizations you have, say, email marketing systems. You can sign up for something like Constant Contact, which if you have a small list, and you can set those ahead of time. So what we're getting in the process of doing for our classes here at First Baptist, we are setting it up so when people get added to the list, they get their pre-work homework. Then they get a reminder before. So you're not having to remember to do that right before the class. So you can automate that. And if anybody's interested, because I was just talking to Tamika about, since you guys are doing this on behalf of dfree, we can help you set that up and do a training so you guys can figure out how to make that better for you.
Yes. Sanaya is our digital process expert. Love her to death. She makes things very, very easy. Like, we're working on content and all that stuff, and that's what you'll see. So when we talk about having those team members that do different things, it will be overwhelming if you try to do this yourself. And I know a lot of times when you're first starting out, you won't necessarily have a team. You are a one-man army. The beauty of having multiple people with multiple things is that you can kind of divide and conquer a lot. Like, I'll work a lot on the decks and putting together the material. Michelle is making sure that we have, everything happening from a ministry perspective. Kimberly is making sure all the back office stuff is done and that we have food and that we have a room. And then Sanaya is making sure that you guys are getting the updates and stuff on the website. So it's important to have a few different people that are dedicated to working on this so you can really divide and conquer.
Absolutely. This is a team sport.
Right.
If I didn't have a Tamika, a Kimberly, and a Sanaya, and a pastor, and an Art, and all the other people in the ministry, it couldn't be done because I have a full-time job, just like most other folks. This is volunteer, and so it does take a lot. But God will give you everything that you need to get it done when you're called to do something. And when I look at this whole process that we've been through, I went to talk to Pastor about setting up a mentoring program for girls.
We all got sucked in.
And here I am. Because I said, in Delta we have the gyms, we have Delta Academy, we have all this good stuff, and we don't have a mentoring program for girls. So, me and a few other sorors from CJA came with our program and how we want to set this up. Now I'm doing dfree. So without the team, it couldn't be done. And I say that because it's not always difficult to do. Yes, Pastor, I said that. It's not always difficult to do, but we're doing good work here, and it just came together so easily because I know it sounds like a lot, and that's why I share that story with you. My background is in engineering, but the process is so simple. You just have to have a will to do it. And, with the team that we've assembled here, we are reaching masses. So that's the excitement that you see from me because we started off going in one direction, and now we're really giving people tools that they can use. So I am really blessed when I see people on Sundays with their testimonies talking about things they hadn't even thought about before. So just the possibility of this is the excitement. So it's not hard. It's just, being dedicated to getting the work done.
We had a question here.
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions.
Uh-huh.
You mentioned the team, and you had a list of roles.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there like the top roles that you definitely need to fill versus the ones that could come a little bit later?
Excellent question, and especially for chapters. Here's what I would say, because we're going to be a secondary support system for you. So if you have, I would say, 2 or 3 people that learn the curriculum and are willing to teach and facilitate, and then, I think you can lean on your economic and development chairs as making sure that they're leading the initiative, and then, just someone to administrate. Just someone to say, how many people signed up, how many people are coming to class, because you want to capture your statistics. So I would start with that. Yeah. And then, like I say, we'll stay connected. But as it grows, invite people who are going through the classes to come on and help volunteer. So for dfree Sunday, and that's why I have 2 volunteers here today, I said, hey, we're doing some good work, but we need a few more workers, right? And you would be surprised, people would say, well, what do you want me to do? So, but I would at least start with trainers, somebody to lead and get the word out and just help pull it together, and then an administrator. Right. And that's why I asked each of the chapter presidents for 6 people, because I said if you have 6 people, you could really run this whole program, with no problem at all.
Yeah, but if you only have 2, a trainer and a leader, that's all you really need. If you have 3, a trainer, a leader, and an administrator, you could function for a little while. But what you will notice is that it will grow rapidly. So we're running, I think, 3 different dfree classes at a time here at the church. And so it's almost like managing a mini school, if you will. Now, for most organizations, you'll run one set of classes. But because we have different schedules and all that stuff, we try to give people options. Some of our larger churches, though, they're running a dfree class with 120 people every cycle. So they have a lot of numbers to deal with. So it's not like sending an email to 6 people and then responding. So something like a constant contact will really be helpful because you have a lot of people that you're managing. So again, it just depends on your organization and what you're used to functioning with. We will give you all the tools and the support that you need. We're also working on our list of just dfree churches and organizations, so that if there are people that are close to you that are doing dfree, you know. So like we have a group of churches in Indianapolis that are doing dfree. There's one lead church that kind of started it, and then they've kind of spread it out to the community, but they share resources and programming. So if one church is doing a monthly seminar on credit, all the churches will send their people there. So when we do our seminars here at First Baptist, if you're in New Jersey, feel free. We encourage you, just send your people here so that we can leverage the opportunities. And if you're doing something at your church, let us know so that we can send people there as well. Like, our goal is not to have a monopoly on dfree. It really is just to be able to get the information out to people in the most effective manner. So as much as we can share, we do that.
Yeah, and something else I would encourage, because the reason why we started with the 4 chapters that we have here today, North Jersey, Montclair, Central Jersey, and Trenton, is because we're close enough where we can leverage one another. So let's make sure that we share information as you're getting started. One of your workshops, one of your seminars, because maybe if somebody misses a seminar for one or a workshop, you can go to another chapter. So it may be hard when we're first getting started, but I would like to see us really create that, kind of a consortium where we can work together and help one another. Because if nothing else, if we have 4 chapters talking about being dfree, one of our national, initiatives is to get sorors to reduce this debt, right? When we think about the trillions of dollars, one thing that you'll hit on in the workbooks is the whole smartphone phenomena. Now, I work at Verizon, so I'm not down on that, right? But it's amazing. One of the stats in there is that, if we have over 42 million blacks, and if over half have smartphones, and if everybody's smartphone bill is almost $150 a month or more, imagine, when you do the math, we're talking trillions. Mm-hmm. We're talking national debt level right here in our community. So when you think about the opportunity, and then if you translate that into Delta and all the members that we have, if we really get behind reducing debt, then we can have a huge impact.